Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the Erie City Environmental Advisory Council. Before we take roll call, are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
I just had a question. I was wondering when the person from the sewer authority is coming?
If we have time, we'll talk about it at the end of the meeting, okay?
Good.
Anything else? All right, do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Up next is roll call. Campbell?
Here.
Howden?
Here.
Kerr's absent. Lupo? Mason?
Here.
Puz, present. Tuffer?
Here.
Associate Member Tarvin is absent. Walmsley?
Here.
Wedekin?
I just wanted to note, I saw Sarah Wedekin at an event recently, and she wanted to share that she has to get approval. She got a job with the DEP, and she has to get approval to be able to attend. So she wanted me to extend her sincere apologies, and she's not sure in the end if she's going to be approved, but she's working on it.
Okay.
Do you know what her job is?
I do not know.
Thank you for the update.
DCNR, sorry, that's it. Yeah,
Oh.
there we go. She had brown on. Our UPS, we, Sorry. That
That's
was just
all right.
a note.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for the update. Others, Director Spry? Present. Moore? Looks like he's not present. Okay. Pillman? I'm here. All right, sounds good. So let the record reflect that 6 of the 7 Environmental Advisory Council members are present. Up next is the approval of the February 2025 meeting minutes. Do we have any additions, comments before we move on? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
Or excuse me, approve. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Next is public comment. Do we have any comment from the public? Seeing none, we'll continue. Next item is new business. The first item under new business is the LCAP PSU student presentation on the greenhouse gas inventory.
Welcome back, team.
Hello.
This is our second and final presentation of the Penn State LCAP program. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you all and let you get started.
Let me share my screen.
Turn it off.
You all see it okay?
Yes, we just are having trouble hearing you, so maybe give us a second.
Can you say something else?
Tell us what you had for breakfast.
Cereal?
Cereal. That was very short. It's supposed to be longer than that. Hold on, we're working on the sound.
No coffee, juice?
Nothing apparently, just cereal.
With the side of an everything bagel.
For our note taker, could we just note that Cooper just showed up? So he is no longer absent, he is present.
And before Tyler begins, I just want to say thank you again to Jackie Spry and to Sarah Peelman, the members of the Environmental Advisory Committee. You have really made this an excellent experience for James and Tyler, and we are deeply appreciative of the work that you've done so that our students get the kind of experience that makes a difference for them. I also want to thank the City of Erie, and especially the people who have so much passion for sustainability and taking action on climate change. You know, what you do for the city matters there. It matters for the Commonwealth. And, you know, I'm just really, I'm just so grateful. Kelly Volkemer, who's here with me, Brandy Robinson, Tyler, James, we're just very, very grateful. So thanks for having us today.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you for that, Peter, especially because that continue to waste some time while we try and get our sound figured out, though we are still working on that.
I mean, I've never met a microphone I didn't like, but I'm glad to be serving this purpose.
All right, we're good now.
Okay, I'll start us off then. Hi all, thank you for having us back so soon after our greenhouse gas emissions presentation last month. James and I have been pretty busy with some deliverables for the spring semester. Oops, 1 second, it's not clicking in. There we go. A quick overview for who we are again, for those who are new. My name is Tyler Bogle, and I'm a LCAP partner and a Penn State World Campus student majoring in energy and sustainability policy, and I also currently reside here in Erie.
Hi, I'm James Schaefer. I'm also an LCAT partner. I'm a geography major at Penn State University Park in State College, Pennsylvania.
In case you weren't here before during our greenhouse gas inventory presentation, James and I are part of Penn State's local climate action program, and we are partnered with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection and are also partnered with ICLEI, in which we have used their ClearPath software and calculators in calculating the carbon dioxide equivalent gases that are emitted in the city of Erie. After our completion of the inventory, James and I shifted to providing additional resources for the city of Erie. We've completed a prioritization matrix that is based on different criteria and scoring, and then we created a example climate action plan outline and framework of a climate action plan for the future City of Erie's cap writing consultant.
I'll start us off with the first resource that Tyler and I developed, which is the prioritization matrix. So a prioritization matrix is a tool that the city of Erie can use to evaluate the actions that they will be considering for their climate action plan. It's a powerful decision-making tool for comparing actions to help the city decide what to implement, push back, or not implement at all. For this prioritization matrix, the word's a little bit of a mouthful, we settled on 5 core criteria categories and assigned scoring for each of the criteria within those categories. So our criteria categories are greenhouse gas mitigation, resiliency improvement, cost, feasibility, and co-benefits. Our matrix was modeled after the Ann Arbor A to Zero matrix and the Borough of Mechanicsburg's matrix, which was developed by a previous LCAP student. So how can the city of Erie use this prioritization matrix? In addition to the matrix that we developed, we also took some actions from climate action plans from other communities that we reviewed, and we put those actions through the matrix to demonstrate how the tool works. And Tyler will walk us through a few of those examples in the next slides. But before that, it's important to understand that a PM is not a rigid scoring tool. The criteria and scoring weights can be adapted to better fit the implementation area or context of the actions that you are thinking about scoring. So potential actions that have the same overall goals that take place in the same sector or implementation area should be put through the matrix to evaluate the pros and cons of each and help the city choose which best action to implement. So the way that you should go about interpreting the scoring should be based on what criteria the city views is most important based on the overall goals of the action. So, for example, if the city hopes to build resiliency and promote equity in a set of actions they're considering, then criteria like resiliency improvement and co-benefits might be more important than mitigation and maybe even cost. And those individual criteria should be prioritized and scrutinized more so than the overall score from all of the criteria. So ultimately, the matrix should help promote these discussions around the actions that the city hopes to implement.
So one of the example actions we chose to score in the matrix is the installation of solar panels on government buildings. This action is inspired by Pittsburgh's internal 100% renewable energy commitment in their climate action plan. Installing solar onto government buildings allows the buildings to be more energy efficient and while being self-sufficient, saving on energy bills. Investing in this area can be beneficial for both the city government and the environment by reducing energy consumption from fossil fuel burning power plants. Within the matrix, the action is favored in the greenhouse gas mitigation criteria, feasibility criteria, as well as the co-benefits criteria. Another action that we used is the expanding transit hubs, sidewalks, and bike lanes throughout the city. This action is inspired by Pittsburgh and the city of Duluth's caps being a realistic and necessary infrastructure investment. It is also inspired by the plan of expanding more bike lanes throughout the city that Jackie was discussing with us in our past meetings. It requires moderate capital investment, but there are federal and state infrastructure as well as transportation programs available to help with planning and implementing. This action is a direct method of reducing emissions from individual commuter vehicles as it expands transportation options and closes infrastructure gaps for those who aren't able to drive, want to save money on gas, or help those who aren't able to afford their own vehicle to get to work. And lastly, it favors the resiliency criteria and the co-benefit criteria within the matrix.
The second resource we're providing, a framework climate action plan, builds on our inventory and priority matrix or prioritization matrix to work to provide a more direct assistance to the development of the official cap. And as you all know, the city is looking to hire a consultant to develop the actual cap. So we, providing in this framework cap, have an extensive cap outline, which includes writing guidance and example language that can be used towards that cap. And also, we modeled this outline off of a number of accepted and adopted caps from other communities that we reviewed. And we proposed 6 sectors or focus areas to include in the cap with high-level strategies and actions that we recommend the city look at as a jumping-off point for their climate action planning. And with these recommendations, we also provide discussions on the funding sources that the city can seek out and how they can use the prioritization matrix. And one of our primary goals with the framework cap is to highlight what we think are key elements of a successful cap. And on the right there, you see a couple of climate action plans that we reviewed, just a few of them that we reviewed, that we thought were really great examples that we took a lot of inspiration from. And what we found is that climate action plans should be clear, relatable, and accessible to the average community member. And as this is the first climate action plan that the city is creating, the community might not be overly familiar with discussions on climate change and climate action. So this cap can be an opportunity to introduce the basics of these concepts in an educational way. And additionally, the cap should be pretty concise and being strategic about what it takes the time to say. And lastly, but most importantly, it should be guided by resident feedback, by the voice of the community through significant outreach. That way that it can actually address the social, economic, and environmental needs that are very specific to Erie.
In addition to the prioritization matrix discussion and the CAP overview, most of the sectoral recommendations we are providing are aligned with the Pennsylvania Priority Climate Action Plan, or PCAP. The PA Department of Environmental Protection created and submitted the PCAP to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency so that it could meet the necessary requirements to participate in the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. Through the CRPG program, local governments like the City of Erie, along with states, tribes, and territories, can receive funding to develop and implement climate mitigation and pollution reduction actions. The Pennsylvania PCAP contains strategies for greenhouse gas reduction with a heavy emphasis on the industrial sector. The plan stresses that these strategies are implementable and cost effective, while also benefiting struggling, marginalized communities experiencing environmental justice in what the plan refers to as a low income and disadvantaged communities.
For the building energy sector or focus area, which is the first one that we have in our framework cap, the city can reduce its emissions from natural gas and grid electricity in a number of ways. One way is through building retrofits and building projects for switching to electrification where possible and updating buildings with more efficient technologies like heat pumps, thermal storage, CO2 chillers, improved insulation, and smart thermostats. These strategies also apply across the residential, commercial, and industrial building sectors. And emissions from grid electricity can also be reduced through on-site renewable energies technologies such as solar, battery storage, fuel cells, and wind. And to drive these actions, the city needs to build connections with its industries, its businesses, its residents, to inform them on the avenues that they can use to fund these projects, like tax credits, rebates, grants, and other available programs. And electrification and efficiency and on-site renewables are all actions that are highlighted in the Pennsylvania-wide Priority Climate Action Plan. So there are a number of state and federal incentives and programs that the city can use to fund these projects. And we go in depth on that in our framework cap. But a few to highlight here are RISE PA, which is Rising Together to Lower Emissions. That's in the industrial sector for industrial projects. And also CPACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, which is for commercial, industrial, and agricultural projects. And to successfully promote these actions, the city needs to have a really good grasp on how these actions actually reduce the financial burden for businesses and residents and actually can promote economic development in the city. Operational and utility costs decrease with more efficient processes and technologies. And these projects also provide lots of job opportunities for the local contractors and trades within the city. And the city also should lead by example in taking these actions, using these funding streams for projects in their own municipal buildings. That will help foster an environment in the city where climate action is commonplace, and it also shows the community what climate action can look like firsthand. And a great resource that the local government and community stakeholders can utilize is PennTAP, or Pennsylvania's Technical Assistance Program, which offers free operational assessments and further guidance on grants and rebates for projects. And for any of this to be successful, though, the city will also need to systematically assess its current land development ordinance review process and review the local laws and processes to make sure that they don't get in the way of these types of actions, the building energy specific actions. And the city can incentivize and enforce these actions further by adopting a green building ordinance that uses nationally recognized rating systems like LEED, Energy Star, and PHIUS Plus. It can also establish building performance standards with local codes and ordinances.
1 second. Clicked off again. There we go.
I think you skipped one. It's
Did I skip one? Yes,
Yeah,
I did.
there you go.
Okay. Sorry about that. According to the PCAP, there is no one size fits all solution for reducing transportation emissions, as strategies has to be tailored to local factors such as population density, infrastructure, and local climate. The most effective method in reducing vehicle miles traveled emissions is through public and active transportation options. The expansion of transit access beyond the city limits can also help reduce VMTs in surrounding counties. The success mainly depends on motivating the public to participate. Key partners that can help with the planning and promoting are PennDOT, Erie Metropolitan Transit Authority, and other local municipalities. Another recommendation that we discussed with Sarah a lot recently is the adoption of electric vehicles for reducing emissions and promoting cleaner transportation options for the City of Erie's government vehicle fleet. There are many funding sources such as the Federal Transit Administration, Federal Highway Administration, and the Alternative Fuels Incentive Grant that are designed to help in the expansion of transit options and the electric vehicle adoption for the City of Erie.
So moving on to the water and wastewater sector, many of the actions the city can take in this sector actually go hand in hand with the building energy actions, specifically the commercial energy actions and funding sources, as all of the buildings that carry out potable water and water treatment processes are actually zoned as commercial within the city. So the city can use the same funding streams to encourage electrification and efficiency projects for Erie Waterworks buildings, and also prioritize those projects in the wastewater treatment plant, which was a significant source of natural gas and especially grid electricity emissions for the city in our inventory. I also want to emphasize again CPACE, because it's a great opportunity to seek the funding for these actions in commercial buildings, and also PennTap again for their operational assessments and the further guidance that they can provide on how to pay for these kinds of projects. And then another action specifically for the wastewater treatment plant is the construction of an anaerobic digester to decompose sludge and biosolids rather than getting rid of them primarily through incineration, which is what the plant currently does, and that is responsible for a significant proportion of the emissions for this sector that we found in our inventory. An anaerobic digester breaks down sludge and biosolids without the use of oxygen, and it produces biogas, which is a renewable fuel source. Here you can see the picture with the backhoe and the I forget what vehicle that is, but the University Joint Authorities University Area Joint Authorities wastewater treatment plant in State College, PA, is actually undergoing an anaerobic digester, or the construction of an anaerobic digester, which is a really exciting project to update their outdated processes and is also leading them to become a significant source of renewable natural gas for the area.
Because of there being many waste collection agencies in Erie and being a vague topic in the PCAP, it was difficult to find more recommendations for the solid waste sector. What we did find to be helpful, though, was using Duluth's action of increasing disposal options in public places and events. It is a simple action that can come with benefits. This action method helps with gathering data on the different variations of waste generated, transported, and processed to the landfill. Perhaps another method that may help is by using more efficient trash collection services, but that's more focused around the transportation sectors. Overall, diversifying waste is a practical method for the city of Erie as it is affordable to implement and allows the city to promote sustainability and educate the community with better waste management practices.
Resiliency and ecosystem services aren't really included in the sectoral GHG inventory, but we're proposing them as a sector or focus area in our framework cap because it's a very important area of mitigation and especially adaptation actions that any community like the city of Erie can take. And the city of Erie has a request for proposal out for a tree inventory and sustainable urban forestry management plan. And there's also American Rescue Plan funds that are set aside to plant more trees throughout the qualified census tracts of the city. So this is a really great opportunity to emphasize that actions like tree planting and expanding the tree canopy are actually climate actions. And the urban forestry management plan can be developed alongside the climate action plan, building off of the foundations of the existing tree commitments and include expanding the tree canopy and to all the areas of the city as a goal within the cap, kind of expanding the goal further. And the Environmental Rights Amendment of the Pennsylvania Constitution state that every Pennsylvanian actually has the right to a beautiful and relaxing environment. That's a core right that Pennsylvanians have. And trees are a very important part of that, not just creating a beautiful environment, but they have valuable ecosystem services that reduce heat, improve air quality, help the infrastructure adapt to increased rainfall, and are vital carbon sinks that sequester the planet's CO2. And there are vulnerable populations across the city that really need the ecosystem services that come from a denser tree canopy.
Starting with the big topic as of late, clean energy sources are becoming more common across Pennsylvania. Solar adoption is rapidly growing across not only Pennsylvania, but across the other states as well. With dropping installation costs, both residential and large-scale solar projects are rising. For example, the solar farm that was implemented out in Girard that is now functioning is an example of a large-scale solar project. And a solar marina idea that we discussed with Mike Campbell in one of our meetings on the adoption of a new marina where the Coke plant is, with the solar panels installed on the marina itself. The benefits of solar adoption include lower energy costs, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, and it provides economic opportunities for installers, manufacturers, and landowners. Solar energy supports the DEP's greenhouse gas reduction goals across multiple sectors. Programs like the Solar Energy Program offers grants and loans for solar projects, and local governments can access guides for grid-scale solar development through the DEP as well. The next of the big three renewables is wind energy. It is a major renewable source in Pennsylvania, making up a significant share of the state's renewable electricity. You may have heard recently the Pennsylvania House has agreed on a research project of implementing renewable energy sources offshore in Lake Erie, primarily focusing on wind energy. There are different types of wind energy, such as utility scale, which is the bigger, larger projects, and then the offshore projects such as the research plant in Lake Erie, and distributed small scale for farms or homes. Benefits of utilizing wind energy is that it produces clean energy and reduces pollution. It creates jobs in construction and operations and provides energy independence during crises. There is possible financing support available through the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development and the Commonwealth Financing Authority. As for hydropower, Erie can harness energy from Lake Erie as a clean, low-maintenance energy source. A local pilot by Breakwave Energy that conducted a study in Harbor Creek last summer showed potential in converting wave energy to electricity. Thinking on a larger scale, hydropower accounted for over 1/3 of PA's renewable energy generation in 2020. The different types of hydropower are river-based, low impact, dams, wave energy, and pump storage. The financing opportunities are through the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority offers funding and tax benefits for hydro projects as well. That is all for our presentation, and we just wanted to say thank you for having us and allowing us to gain this experience. And a huge thank you to everybody involved for helping us gather data required in our inventory, provided us with feedback, as well as give us advice on how local government on how local governments function. If there are any later questions, this is James and mine's email, or you can get in touch with Jackie, Sarah Peelman, or Mike Campbell to forward us any questions that may arise in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tyler and James, for another wonderful presentation. Really appreciate it. That's a lot of information. And well done. Well done. Good job. Great job.
Thank you.
Are we going to have questions?
No, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, well, so one of the things, several of us are interested, rather than enhancing the disposal options for public events, is having better source control and providing more on-site beverage, water specifically, availability, and people using their own bottles, rather than having better disposal of plastic. So source control is much higher on the list of ways to deal with plastic and waste. So that's one comment I wanted to make. As far as anything I say isn't meant as criticism, but if there's any way that this can help you to refine your report. As far as the EMTA is soon, now, eventually going to begin their operation plan at great long last. And so to have, maybe to help them have as a criteria energy resilient, just helping to deal with the greenhouse gas and climate change as one of their criteria, rather than just, numbers of riders and dollars and everything. So I would encourage, maybe you can say something in your report or even interact with them as they're going into this thing. Yeah, I was concerned at first when you talked about ramping up bike paths. And I'm all for more sidewalks and I'm all for more bike paths, but for those of us who are older or people with disabilities, older people can ride a bike, but some of us have fragile bones. But, that I would ride transit if it made more sense for me to ride it. And I think a lot of people would use it if it was better. Trees are good, but trees in isolation, a tree plugged into the sidewalk doesn't serve a larger function than if there was an actual landscape of natural plants and stuff and enhance the whole biodiversity. So just plugging trees all over town isn't going to do that. And one last thing, with the use of solar, is there any kind of weighing of what is the energy and what are the things that we have to mine and get to make solar panels, and what happens to dispose of them? Just so that, when we start talking about the benefits, are we looking at the whole life cycle? I'm not saying don't use solar, but are we looking at the whole life cycle? Thank you.
Thank you, Freda. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Again, I want to thank you for your time and all the energy you put into this. This has been fantastic. And again, bravo. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, moving on to our second item under new business, the signage project updates.
So I'll introduce, this is Hannah Oleski. Hannah's our newest hire at the City of Erie Planning Department, Planning and Neighborhood Resources. Hannah is the Neighborhood Resource Coordinator, primarily working with Liz Reyes in Neighborhood Resources on Love Your Block, ENGP things, providing resources and connections to our community. But also, Hannah has been working a little bit on some signage, our signage, internal signage project, and she's here to give you an update. So thanks, Hannah.
Thank you, Jackie. So currently, right now, what I'm doing is I'm going over our current signage ordinance that exists here in the city, and I'm doing basically a comparative analysis of what's in ours, and then looking at other cities. More specifically, I've been looking at Lancaster because they are similar in a lot of ways, and they're a third-class city like us, and kind of seeing what is in ours and what is not in ours, and comparing it to theirs, because theirs was just done last year, and it's very well written. Also, I'm going over studies and articles regarding sign ordinances that are kind of nationally, but also focusing more on the Commonwealth. And also going over design regulations regarding signage for businesses, for just a blanket across. And also we're currently, well, not currently, but going to be doing a survey in the field, kind of collecting data on signage that exists here in Erie and how we could possibly make our sign ordinance reflect better for our city and what we want to kind of happen. And also looking into, I know that illuminating signs and bright signs has been a topic here in the EAC, and looking into how we can work better to not have those bright signs. That was addressed, I think, a couple months ago in the meeting. So
wanted to add that we have some guidance that we're with Michael Baker, who's our open-ended contract consultants, that we're doing some internal due diligence and investigation and research. And then we do have the availability to use them for some technical assistance. So, which is great because this is their wheelhouse. They've done a lot of signage ordinances. They're very familiar. They've also provided us kind of a models from very, very technical, 200-page signage ordinances, which are great because they have a lot of detail, to more of design-based, form-based signage ordinances. So we've been just looking at those, and I think it's a great avenue for not only the EAC to be involved for a multitude of reasons, but also it helps the city it opens up the city to understanding design and form, and we're just opening this door, and through signage is a good way to start that. So we're hopeful that the EAC will be able to provide some guidance to us and support. We know that you have definitely some focuses that areas of focus that you would like to see in some of the signage, and we will welcome your input. And as we continue on, Hannah hopefully will be able to present some of her research and maybe even a presentation on our current signage and the state of our signage. And that will be in the next month or two that we plan to do that. So stay tuned.
yes.
Just two things. I'm concerned from the bird point of view, but I'm also concerned for the people like me who are visually sensitive.
Absolutely.
And There are also video screens as well as signs. Some of them, like the one at Marquette, it's not outside, but it is in the viewscape. The other thing is, there is a lot of information that is provided in signs that the city may have that isn't available to people who are not sighted. So just throwing some things out there for you to
Absolutely.
be considering.
Thank you for that.
I just had a couple of comments. So you're looking at the city sign ordinance. So that would be in the zoning ordinance?
Yes, correct.
So section 303, if I remember properly. Have you talked with the zoning officers?
I have kind
regarding-
of started the conversation with them. They helped me find said ordinances and kind of explained why it's in zoning and not in other areas. So that has been, am I echoing? Sorry, I can't tell.
I think there's some feedback.
Okay, I was like, I don't know if it's my ear or, yeah, I can't hear it anymore.
Yeah.
That's better. Yes, I have been working with them, not as closely yet, just because I'm still doing an initial research and, review. In case you don't know, our ordinance is not very big. It's only, if you
3
print it out, it's
pages.
only 3 pages. So not a whole lot to review on our end, but a whole lot to see what we don't have and how we can make it better.
Okay. Another, just something helpful to look at, it'd be to go back and look at if there's any variances that were granted, generally, especially if it's a reoccurring variance, because those tend to indicate that there is a fundamental flaw in the ordinance, especially if it's getting approved repeatedly. So that's
Yes.
just another place to start.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, Matt. And Amy Francis, she keeps track of all of the variances and what, she has a spreadsheet already that we can share with Hannah so that you can look at the pain points, right, of where the ordinance might not be, it might not be fitting for our needs. So, yeah,
correct.
that's a great idea. Thank you for that. Yeah.
You're welcome.
But the ordinance, just to make note, it's only 4 pages long in the zoning ordinance. So, I mean, we do have zoning around lighting. What are some of the other
There's,
ones? Like illumination.
Illumination,
Yeah.
like where a sign can be placed at in comparison to the building, things, covering walls. Freda brought up, TV screens, those are technically signs, if it's on the outside of a building.
Right.
The list goes on, but
So there is some signage ordinance currently. I just want to make sure that that's clear. And there's a permitting process
Yes,
for
there
it
is.
as well. So we have room to expand and possibly provide better guidance. So
Okay.
perfect.
Any other comments on the signage project?
Thanks.
No.
Awesome. Thank you
Well,
guys so much.
Yeah, thank you for the update. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
thank you.
All right, seeing nothing else under new business, we will move on to old business. So the first item, we have the subcommittee update. So we currently have 2 subcommittee, so we'll do the plastic bag one first, that was established, and then we'll move on to the dark night sky, sorry.
dark sky ordinance.
Okay, so so the single-use plastics ban is meeting monthly on the second Wednesday of the month, since we as a group meet on the 4th Wednesday of the month. Okay, got that right. Okay, so we last met on April 9th. In attendance were Alan Swagonski, who is a local Erie resident who is joining as a concerned citizen, having seen the movie. Molly Tarvin, Jenna Walmsley, Matt Puz, and myself. And kind of what we're doing in these, this was the first meeting where everybody was in attendance. So I started by kind of going over what had been discussed the previous meeting, in which only 3 of the 5 members were present. And then we kind of decided what we would go from here. So we had started got some basic data from the study that Varun and I did, looking at storm drains, street sweepers, and the litter booms on kind of the type of materials that we see. Molly Tarvin was going to look for Alliance for the Great Lakes data to kind of complement that, and the idea is pulling together this data to create a one-pager that kind of explains the need for the single-use plastics ban. So presenting some data that might be helpful for people who are not aware that plastics are an issue. Additionally, so we wanted to have that on hand when we went and spoke with various community groups or stakeholders that might be of interest or might be affected by the single-use ban. So we started an idea of a questionnaire, a common questionnaire, so that when we go to talk with people, we're asking common questions so that we have some data that we're getting from the community that's in a standardized format. That questionnaire, we looked at it, we added some questions. We decided we wanted it both a hard copy as well as a basically a Google form. So I've done actually both of those, and then that'll be presented at our next meeting. And then Jenna was assigned the task of we had started a list of different kind of community groups under different kind of focus areas, like, people who have, groups that are focused on people with disabilities, group restaurants and food vendors. And so we have kind of this different big topics and then ideas of companies underneath there. Jenna and I think Alan ended up sending you kind of a starting point because he gets very excited. But so she was going to work on this kind of Excel file of contacts. So the idea is that we'll have a one-pager, we'll have a questionnaire, we'll have a list of contacts, and at our next meeting, we'll start kind of assigning people to different groups to go out and ask some questions to. So Jenna maybe talks to UPIC6 because she works there, or Tap House, whatever, because she works there, right? So we each kind of get assigned people that we'll go and talk to with this one pager and with this common questionnaire. And then Alan and Matt each kind of volunteered to start making City Council aware of our actions, like what we're working on. So Alan was going to talk to Mel Witherspoon. I do know that that's not going to happen by the time our next meeting is, because Mel has been a little under the weather. And then Matt was going to talk with Jasmine Flores. So just kind of making them aware that this is happening behind the scenes, and that once we have more information, we'll share it with them. So then our next meeting is sometime in May. There we go. Any questions?
What is that thing called?
This is called a Remarkable. It's my electronic notepad.
If the ordinance that we're being considered is still going to focus on plastic bags, I'm supposing that the data is going to support that as being a big target.
Yeah, so we're yes.
Okay.
And it's bags, utensils, and styrofoam. I'm sorry. Expanded polystyrene.
Okay, so the ordinance will be more than just plastic bags.
Yeah, so I sent around the example ordinance. I think you were maybe absent that meeting, and I can resend it. We can decide after talking with people that we only want to focus on bags, or something like that. But the idea is basically we have this model ordinance, this example that we can add particular content into or refine it however we like. But in order to determine how we might want to refine it, we wanted to talk to potentially impacted stakeholders.
So we're not going to do anything with plastic bottles?
No, if you remember, we had a conversation about a better way. You can't really ban, like, the city of Erie cannot go, like, within the city of Erie, we are not going to sell any beverage in a plastic bottle. Like, that would be really, like, the city could make that, like, within City Hall, but you can't kind of make that blanket. So the way that we were going to address plastic bottles was more through infrastructure and offering alternatives, if you remember.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wondered if there's any way to incentivize restaurants to not be using plastic bottles and to actually, to dispense beverage without giving people a plastic bottle. But, yeah.
I think that's outside of the purview of this particular ordinance in which things are being banned. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that update. And I would like to try to attend your May meeting just to be a support there, mainly. Do you think that at this next meeting, it's more of still a work in progress, or would you like to, usually the mayor comes, but would you like others to be part of the discussion?
Anybody can be part of the
come?
discussion, but I do think it's still a work in progress. We're still collecting the data. I don't think anybody has volunteered to I have it on my list of things to do. If I have a moment, I will try and create an initial mock-up of what our one-pager might look like.
Okay. I guess I was thinking before we go out and start talking about it in the community, perhaps we could have an internal or special meeting or internal discussion with a few members from the EAC and talk to staff, city staff, to the administration in regards to the ordinance.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
We can do that. Once I feel like we have all of our ducks in a row, then definitely.
Then we can do that. Okay.
And that might be more like June.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments in this subcommittee? All right, moving on. The Dark Sky Subcommittee.
Okay. We met, three of us on the council that decided we would be part of this 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday evening, and we drove around the downtown when it was getting dark and discussed maybe what would be effective strategies for addressing the light pollution problem, which is a twofold issue. One is on, which relates to the signs, which I'm glad to hear Hannah's work is going to kind of tackle that, which can affect people with light sensitivity. The other part of the problem has to do with a wildlife issue during the migration periods when bright lights in the city and the overall brightness of the sky results in migrating birds coming down into the city and then the next day getting killed when they fly into windows. And that's not necessarily a light from signs, but light shining through the windows of buildings, as well as an excessive amount of glass on buildings that create the reflective surfaces that the birds collide with. So
we also talked about the whole dark sky thing.
yeah, and so far, not having broadened the number of people participating, I think we sort of agreed that we're not ready yet to think that an ordinance, either a new ordinance or modifying existing ordinances, is going to be the best way to deal with the problem. It certainly, if that could help, what Hannah is doing makes sense to help alleviate some of the brightness. We decided that if we want to see if we can incentivize local commercial entities, industries, companies that have a lot of buildings with a lot of windows and bright lights, if we want to try to get them to consider changing their lighting situation, that maybe we can work with them outside of an ordinance, maybe have a representative, not necessarily from the EAC, but maybe someone that is sympathetic to our concerns that might already have contacts with those entities to talk to them. You know, hey, how about turning your lights out at night when everybody leaves? Or can we follow the model of what some other cities have done with having events where they get everybody to turn their lights out, you know, during an appropriate time period that would possibly, you know, curtail some of the casualties with birds. So I reached out to my colleagues with the Erie Bird Observatory just yesterday or the day before, and they've given us some dates that they're the new director, Holly, gave me 3 days and dates that she could meet with us in the next several weeks. So I'm going to be coordinating with Matt and Freda and you, Jackie, or maybe Cooper, if one of you wants to be present, and maybe Hannah too, since her work relates to it. And we'll try to set up a time for another committee meeting. Yeah.
So what about, we talked about that building that's
Can
going
you
to be,
speak into your microphone?
that Caton Company building. Have you thought about?
Yeah, I forgot to mention, there's a building that is planned to be built that's going to have a lot of glass.
A lot of glass.
And it might make sense to see if we could talk to them in time to see what their plans are for glass and lighting, and possibly see if maybe they've already had their building plans approved or not, you know. So we might want to have somebody from code enforcement or zoning that might be involved in building permits to take a look at a specific site. And Freda has the good idea. It's easier to deal with lighting and window issues before new buildings get built than after the fact. And that's where an ordinance might make sense. If we don't already have any ordinances that affect, you know, what is allowed to be built, maybe an ordinance that addresses that would make some sense.
Isn't one of the reasons, though, people have a lot of windows is because they want to optimize natural light? I mean, I know when we were, one of my green teams one time was doing something with Erie Insurance, and we were reviewing their building. And they talked a lot about trying to have everybody have access to natural light. And that was one of the reasons for having all the windows. I know I can't sit in a room that doesn't have natural light for a very long period of time.
And to address that, I mean, buildings can use new products that aren't necessarily prohibitively expensive to put on the big sheets of glass dots, you know, that birds will see and avoid colliding with, or you know, and this is just going to be a no-brainer, low-hanging fruit. You know, why do you have to have the lights blazing all night when nobody's in there? You know, you're going to save energy and reduce greenhouse gas emissions if you turn your lights out at night. And I would welcome all of you to take a drive around town some evening at 10 o'clock and see how much light is blaring out into the darkness. You know, it's insane.
That's a bit much. That's a bit much.
Those of us that aren't retired are asleep by 10 o'clock, Mike.
That doesn't look like it.
So within the signage ordinance, there actually is something about turning off like signage, LED lights, anything that's illuminating on the front of a building in between the hours of 11 p.m. and ours, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it's at 6 a.m. is when the sign is allowed to be turned back on. However, if a building or business is operating 24 hours a day, they are allowed to keep their signage on the entire time. So there actually, it is in the ordinance. That is one thing that's in ours. 11 p.m. obviously is a little bit, you know, later in the evening. But if the business closes before 11, the signage has to be turned off at the time that the building is closed or the business is closing.
If you see the picture of what Caton Company is planning, it's just this 3 sides of nothing but glass. around the staircase, an outdoor staircase, or, well, a staircase. So it isn't going to give anybody a workspace with natural light. It's just a design feature.
I think it looks pretty.
Well, yeah, but
understand
it's
the
a lot of
concerns.
glass.
But I think, I mean, to Mike's point, like, putting some kind of decoration on the glass to prevent bird collisions is good. And I'm sure it's because the staircase is needed to go between floors, but you don't want people exposed to the elements because it's
Right.
eerie. So I'm sure there's a purpose to it,
But it
but
doesn't
having that conversation with them is quite logical. Yeah.
Add two things. One is that when I attended with Freda and Mike what was it called now?
Lights Out Erie.
Lights
it's
Out
called.
Texas.
Yeah.
Lights Out Texas.
Yeah.
But the film was called Lights Out Texas, and they were from Yale, I believe, right? Or was it Yale or
Cornell.
No, Cornell.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I don't know how I got that messed up. Cornell. Any case, I had asked the question as to, if you didn't go right into the ordinance, what could we do to, mitigate some of these issues? And that was exactly their answer, was sit down with the business owners and talk to them and have these discussions. Now, after the movie, I spoke with someone from the Bird Conservancy and Bird Observatory, sorry, and they showed me the map of the locations that the dead birds were found over, was it 2 years, Mike? Mm-hmm. And on the map, and I should have brought it with me today, it's the obvious ones. And I don't know if you want me to say them, no, today, but it's the obvious organizations that are either operate 24 hours because they have to, or that there's a plethora of glass, right? So I think starting with some of those businesses and organizations make a lot of sense because we already have the data to back it up as to where the birds were found. I think there was one other thing I was going to add, but I can't remember.
So a one-pager with that data, kind of like what we're doing with the single-use plastics, I think would be helpful when you're having those conversations, to have that on hand.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've asked the Erie Bird Observatory to share their data with us so that we'd have it.
And we asked for that as well because we want it's in GIS format, and so we would like to house that. I don't know if they'll share it, but she seemed rather open to doing that. But that would be wonderful if we could get that, Mike, at the city.
And maybe we could do something positive, like create a I Love Birds club, and all the businesses who love birds can have like a I Love Bird stickers or something put on their building, like that they're complying with taking care of the birds. Try to do something positive that they can be a part of.
There's probably already something that exists that we could plug into.
Yeah, because that would be like getting them, the carrot instead of the stick.
Yeah. I like that.
Although cookies, carrots.
Yeah.
We say cookies instead of sticks. Is flowers?
But the Cornell groups definitely said that's, and I can't remember what city they were talking about.
I think Chicago
Was
was
it
one,
Chicago one?
and Cleveland. There were
Yeah.
two major cities, also Great Lakes cities, that had a lot of bird casualties. And I just came across an article. There was this huge building in Chicago where after the company was presented with the information of the hundreds of birds that were dying, they changed, they put dots on their glass. They hired a contractor to come in and modify the existing glass, and there's been a dramatic decline in bird casualties. So we've got good evidence that, modest improvements to the glass alone can help.
And
Can we get some cost info?
the other thing about the data, which I found fascinating and terrifying at the same time, was that what, did they say that only 4%, that they estimate that only 4% of all birds that are being killed by the glass or by the building impact, it's only 4%.
Right. From my own experience, when a bird collides with a window, it might not die right away, but be stunned. And it might fly away moments later and die somewhere else because they're typically in shock, even though they can still fly. And I observed cats stalking outside some of the buildings in the mornings when I was doing the walks. So, I mean, local small predators
Right.
learn quickly
Have
that
figured it
there's
out.
easy prey.
But that's a very small percentage of the total
Yeah.
that we
know about.
That we know
Right.
about, right?
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to our next item. Upcoming events. Do we have upcoming events?
Well, if anybody wants a little bit of exercise, on Saturday, May 10th, we have the Art House. We have a 5K walk and run. And we're still open for registration. We have
Lots of-
190 people registered.
What's the
It's
theme?
really big.
What's the theme?
Art and Soul. It's called SOLE.
Can we carry political signs that?
And the prizes are artwork made by the students at the Art House, and there are teams and there are individuals.
Wasn't there going to be a poetry reading too that you'd mentioned?
Poetry reading is in May 17th, I think. I don't know, that's up at the East 22nd Street. If you haven't visited it, even if you don't go to that, you should ride by it. East 22nd Street, right across from Holy Trinity. There's a poetry park that our sister Mary Lou Kanacki and Mary Miller were instrumental in Group Trinity Square takes care of that. But yeah, there's an open mic for poetry reading.
And were they to be environmental themed, I think, or?
Yes, Mother Earth or something.
Yes.
But you could read any poetry you want.
Well, Friday's Arbor Day, and the mayor's going to be planting a tree in East Perry Square at 10 o'clock on Friday morning, and the library has been having an Earth Day extravaganza all week long, and Saturday, the Urban Forest Committee, some master gardeners, Leaf will be giving away tree seedlings, and the county forester, Steve Laskowski, and myself, the city arborist, a bunch of us are going to be at the library from 10 to 2 as part of their event.
And that's this Saturday?
Yeah, this Saturday, promoting Arbor Day and trees. And the earth is still a part of that.
What kind of tree? What kind of tree is he planting?
Leaf is giving away seedlings.
No, the mayor.
Oh, well, that's debatable. They wanted to plant a black maple, but I haven't been able to find one.
Is it gonna
So
be a
I'm
native tree?
proposing alternatives.
Is it going to be a native? Is it going to be native?
Yes, we would not plant a tree that was not native, Freda, for Arbor Day.
Well, the Arbor Day Foundation doesn't believe that, but yeah.
Yes, but we are not the Arbor Day Foundation.
Yes.
We are the City of Erie Urban Forest Committee.
Also Friday, the 25th through Monday, the 28th is the citywide Nature Challenge.
And so if you have the iDiversity, is that what the app is called? So they're asking people to go out and Asbury Woods is really running this. Yeah, the iNaturalist app on your phone. You go out and take a picture and you send it to the broader thing, and it goes into a database that's used by scientists globally. It's a global database that people can see. And so this will be the third year that Art House kids are going to participate in that on the Friday and Monday classes.
Also, I just wanted to say Saturday, May 3rd, the first Saturday of May, is the city's tire and electronic drop-off recycling event. That's also happening at the Municipal Garage at 19th and Holland.
I hear it's very popular.
It's from 9 to 1 p.m.
Do you have to make an appointment or anything?
No, you just have to get in line.
Okay.
Early.
It's 6 tires per person. Yeah, that you can bring. And any electronic. Anything that plugs in will take. Computers and TVs and laptops are technically illegal to be thrown away in the garbage from now on, so they have to be recycled. So we have our once-a-year annual event, but the county has household hazardous waste events once a month that folks can also register and take things there, all different types of household hazardous waste, not just electronics. But their event, you have to pay per pound. Our event is free to city residents, but you do have to be a city resident to come, and we do check IDs.
I didn't know it was free.
Yes, it's always been free. Yeah, that's why it's nice, because it's the only free one. Thank you.
As part of the library's extravaganza, Earth Day extravaganza, tonight is another screening of Ripples of Plastic at 6:30 at the Blasco Library in the Hurt Auditorium. And I have year-long rights, so all summer long it's going to be playing every Sunday at 2 o'clock.
Where?
In the Hurt Auditorium at the Blasco Library, with the hope that there's some rainy Sundays and families looking for something indoors to do decide to watch my really depressing documentary. Not mine.
Sam, do you have a flyer on that we can share with folks? Because people have been asking me who missed the movie to see it.
Not yet. I'm working on it.
Did you
It's on
say
my
every
list of
Sunday?
things to do.
Sunday?
I think it's it's every other Sunday, because it's only when Jessica is working.
So it won't be shown during the week at all?
The current plan is every Sunday at 2 o'clock. But if there's interest in doing like another day, talk to me. And I have the rights for an entire year, so.
It'd be interesting to see if you could get some campers, from different places around town headed down there, just to see it, have more kids viewing that.
We can talk about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely going to contact you. We want to show it out at the monastery.
Cool. Yeah. So
Annette will probably be calling you, but we decided to wait till after Easter.
Thank you. But it's right here. Whole movie. 2 versions. And I just wanted to also mention that this Saturday, April 26th, there's a lot of cleanups happening around the city of Erie. So, keep an eye out. I'm participating in the Our West Bayfront one, but I know that there's many, many others happening throughout the city. So if there's a neighborhood that you're particularly invested in, look to see. There's probably a cleanup happening in a neighborhood near you.
So I did ask a question at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh, yeah, we have one more item. We'll get to it. We're going to get kicked out soon, though.
I'll give an update about that.
Department updates?
Yeah. I can give a quick update about what Fred is asking. So Basil Renzetti, who's the bureau chief of sewers, because we were having some difficulty getting him to the meeting, I had proposed to him, somebody gave me the idea, maybe it was Matt, I think, but that we go to the sewers. We go to the stormwater sewer authority. So I've taken a tour there before, and I thought we could all just go there and get a tour and speak to Basil on his turf. And he was very open to that and said that mid-June would be the best time for him to meet with us. So I have that on my calendar, and I don't necessarily know we have to make it a special meeting since we're just going to be talking, he's going to be presenting mainly to us, but would you all be in favor of going there to get a tour and speak with him?
You mean for the June meeting?
Not for the June meeting, but as either a special meeting or just sort of a event.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds fine.
Okay. That's a little bit easier for him. So just in terms of updates really quickly, we had our kickoff for the Comprehensive Recreation Parks and Open Space Plan in April, which is this month, at the beginning of April. And I know that Mike Campbell was there and Matt, right? No, just Mike. Mike, were you the only? Yes, Mike was there and participated in our working group. We have an advisory committee for the plan, and they were there. They were here for 2 days, and it went very well. Other things, the RFP, as was stated, will close on the 30th of this month. We already received one proposal for the tree inventory and maintenance plan. We've received one proposal, and we have several other consultants who are interested. So we are very happy that we at least have one. We hope to have at least 4 that we know of that are interested. So that will close on the 30th. What else is relevant? Everything. Let's see. We are in the midst of finalizing the safety action plan for the Safe Streets and Roads for All project. And the Planning Commission, we've done a city staff internal review. The Planning Commission has done a review. And then it will be public for public to see once it's finalized. So those are the 3 big things I think that to report on. Unless you have other questions about other projects, I'm happy to report out on all of them.
So
June, yes. And I'll send out a few dates. I'll put together an email and send out some dates for first check with Basil and then check with you guys, yeah. And it takes about, it's like a good 2 hours, I think. Not the whole time touring, but from start to finish, I'd say an hour and a half, maybe.
Is this to tour the wastewater treatment plant?
Wastewater treatment plant,
goodness, okay.
yes.
I'll skip that part.
You've seen it already, I know that. I did
3
ask
times.
him. And I think, Mike, you've seen
Yeah,
it too.
it's better than Disney World, believe me.
Oh, it is. It's fascinating. Yeah, it was on my bucket list for so many years, and finally I did it, so I was very excited.
Vicks
And if
Vapor
you-
Rub. Vicks
Yeah.
Vapor Rub underneath
Oh,
the
no, you
nose.
It's not so
gotta,
bad.
take in all the
A
senses.
lot of birders specifically go to wastewater treatment ponds because it's a
They
good place
sit
to
there.
bird.
Another place we could tour would be the Water Authority facility at some point, too. I think that would be good. Maybe Sondheimer, that facility, so. Okay, that's all.
All right, anything else?
I don't think so.
All right, do you have a
Move to
motion to
adjourn?
adjourn? Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Ay, ay, ay.
So moved.